Mr. Speaker, if there is one thing that this House should do, then just pass this bill. Even if there are a million amendments that are supposed to be there, this bill is an admission of how Parliament can fail. In 2013, Mr. Speaker, somebody came with an amendment bill, not an amendment bill, with a bill in this House in 2013 canvassing for the establishment of the Agricultural and Food Authority. And it passed. And it killed the sugar industry. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with many members, especially the views of the Senator Vihiga. He appears to appreciate the meaning of this bill, that there are gaps. But for starters, let us pass this bill. Why? Mr. Speaker, we are re-establishing the Kenya Sugar Board, period. Once you re-establish the Kenya Sugar Board, that is the beginning of recovery. Mr. Speaker, I know you were not there. You were busy in your law firm at that time, or probably at the University of Nairobi. What happened is that some tomcats, treasury mandarins, started salivating for the money that was in the account of Kenya Sugar Board. They looked at Kenya Sugar Board, billions of shillings. Paratamo Board, negative. Sijiwaji other board, negative. And they wanted to sweep the money, and they did, and they disappeared. In the process, they crippled the livelihood of 25% of Kenya's population that depends on this industry. Arithmetically, that converts at the current population of 55 million Kenyans to 14 million Kenyans were adversely affected. And together with that, 250,000 small-scale farmers were shortchanged. The amount of poverty this has visited in the sugar belt cannot be described. You go to Khalwale market in Mumias, the once vibrant economy has closed down. You go to Ahunga in Mumias, it has closed down. You go to Nabaholo, the markets have closed down. Mumias town itself, the same, just because of the failure of this parliament. Parliament should never fail. Mr. Speaker, I therefore appeal to colleagues that you listen carefully to the contributions from senators from the sugar belt. And these are 12 counties, starting from Kwale across up to the border with Uganda. Mr. Speaker, as I thank the committee through its chair for coming to Kakamega, I want to urge the senator of Nandi, who is my neighbor, to use kind words to this committee. They did an excellent job. I saw them. I was in their meeting. They never lobbied me, but because sugarcane farming is very important, I was interested. They didn't even have enough money to go to 5-star hotels, 7-star hotels outside Kakamega, but they lived on. I'm proud of this committee. Mr. Speaker, this bill, in its first schedule, speaks to the sticking issue of zoning. Yes, zoning is a very pregnant issue, is a hot brick. If not managed properly, it can be abused. I therefore want to support them, that we go by the proposals of the task force. However, during the third stage, I would like to appeal to the chair, you adopt some of our proposals so that they become the proposals for amendment by the chair, to give it the weight that it would deserve, for us to polish it even further. Because if you don't do it very well, zoning, which is supposed to kill poaching of cane, can also enslave the farmers in that zone, in the sense that you will be coerced through legislation to deliver your cane to a factory in your zone, whether it pays you well or not, whether it pays you timelessly or not, whether it harvests on time or not. And this is why I say we polish it. Mr. Speaker, the issue of zoning should also be polished further, so that the issue of way bridges must be addressed. We must make it an offense punishable under this act for any miller to set up a way bridge in a zone that the miller does not belong to. You'll find, you go to Western, Mr. Speaker, we have wide load, long trucks that carry harvested cane from end to end. This law, we want to polish it, and Chairman, I appeal to you, so that should this miller choose to haul cane long distances, then they should incur a penalty as they cross from one county to another county. Mr. Speaker, the issue of poaching of cane from foreign zones is the reason why I would like to support this bill, where it says that no single miller should enjoy monopoly, whereby his investment is more than 30% of the total cane harvested in this country. Mr. Speaker, it is because of this greed of setting up very many factories that you find these people then end up poaching cane from end to end. Mr. Speaker, for purposes of enforcement, the police under this act must be authorized to arrest poachers of cane. And those of us who come from the heartland of cane production, i.e. the county of Kakamega, the county of Kisumu, and the county of Bungoma, we know what we are talking about. Yes, and county, Busia for a long time is part of Kakamega, so when I say it as a big brother. Mr. Speaker, this law has to speak to harvesting of cane. The reason why you had the Senator of Vihiga speak to the issue of the temporary closure of factories that was there last year is because these poachers, Mr. Speaker, were engaged in harvesting of premature cane. Under this act, we must make sure that harvesting of premature cane is, Mr. Speaker, criminalized. And Mr. Speaker, in this act, we are speaking to cane pricing. Cane pricing, the proposal in this act is that it should be done every 3 months. You cannot do that. Pricing must be reviewed every month because sugar fluctuates on the national, on the regional, on the continental, in COMESA, and in the international market. So reviews should be regular so that we don't lose out. Personally, I know what I'm talking about. I'm a farmer in Marinya. I grow cane in Kakamega. I supply to Butali Sugar Company. I supply to West Kenya. And it is usually very annoying, Mr. Speaker, when this week you supply, and because we have not had reviews, the following week you see now Ken is attracting a better price. I therefore want to plead with the chairman of the committee, you consider reducing from 3 months to, Mr. Speaker, 1 month. Mr. Speaker, there is an animal in this country under the total and absolute control of the National Treasury called importation of sugar. Importation of sugar, whereas on the one hand is a necessity, but on the other hand is killing our farmers. Mr. Speaker, how? An imaginary, hypothetical sugar deficit is declared by the National Treasury. Then cheap imported sugar hits the market and it denies the local farmers an opportunity to enjoy a better price. To discourage, I want to encourage the committee again at third reading to discourage this reckless behavior. We must tie down the National Treasury in this manner, that any time a declaration of a deficit is made and the market for imported sugar is opened, the local farmers must also enjoy and benefit from that importation. How? If 100% of imported sugar can be allowed into the market and 50% is allowed for private players, and the remaining 50% is given to the outgrower institutions. Mumiasi outgrowers company, Moko, Butali outgrowers company, Puko, West Kenya outgrower company, Tuya outgrower company, Sony Sugar outgrower company. The bottom line is that the benefit of importation will be enjoyed by the private players and also the local producers, so that there is shared prosperity as envisioned in the letter and spirit of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Mr. Speaker, in this bill, and I'll be specific later on, we are speaking to the issue of cess. A member spoke to this issue and took it very lightly. He thought money was being taken to Kera, where the member was saying it was being given to members of parliament. That is not true. In this act, the money that is being taken to Kera, it is for development of roads in the catchment area, which is exactly what cess is supposed to do. So the bill is well crafted to that extent. And Mr. Speaker, it is not by accident that the mover of this bill in the National Assembly is the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nabaholo in Kakamega, and in this House is the distinguished Senator for Bungoma. It is because we are the ones who are wearing that shoe and we know where it pinches. Mr. Speaker, if we fix our sugar industry in Kakamega, our own source revenue will triple. Because, Mr. Speaker, Mumia Sugar Company has a potential of a turnover of 24 billion. Butali Sugar Company, turnover of 10 billion. And West Kenya Sugar Company, turnover of 14 billion. With this kind of turnover, automatically our own source revenue is going to shoot up. This was the original intention of devolution, that we open up economies of counties so that they can grow their own source revenue. I was in an investment conference in Kakamega, Mr. Speaker, last week. And I looked at it and I said, it is really going to be difficult with this quality of thinking to unlock economies. There was nothing inspiring about the sugar industry, and yet it is the backbone of Kakamega. Mr. Speaker, allow me to speak to the following clauses. I can see my time is flying away. Very quickly. I'll not speak to too many clauses. To clause 38. Mr. Speaker, clause 38 is on sugar development levy. This clause, Mr. Chairman of the committee, please, you cannot succeed in the sugar industry without the farmer and without the miller. So when you share out the money for sugar development levy in 6A, clause 6A, instead of giving 15% to the millers and 5% to the farmers, you must balance it, Mr. Chairman, so that the miller gets 10% and the farmer gets 10%. It is a symbiotic relationship. If the farmer gets discouraged, the miller cannot have any raw material. If the miller gets discouraged, the farmer will lack a market. Let us give it the seriousness that it deserves. And then the final clause that I want to speak to, Mr. Speaker, is clause number, not the final clause, the penultimate, is clause number 58 on pricing. It says the main objective shall be to number 3, number C, ensure adherence to the negotiated cane processing formula. This is the backbone of what I was talking about, shared prosperity. If you don't adhere to it and you allow the investors to have a big say because they have the money to influence meetings, then farmers end up being shortchanged. And finally, Mr. Speaker, Article 59, which is speaking to representation of a grower in the private milling company. Honorable Senator Osoti missed it by a kilometer. The private miller, the reason why members are allowed to sit as directors is because left on his own, he should change us. It is like taking your goat to the market in Lubao and asking the person who is going to slaughter that goat to decide the price of the goat without reference to the owner of the goat. So, Senator Osoti, why we need that the owner of the goat, the sugarcane farmer, should also speak in Lubao market is because if he keeps quiet, his goat worth 12,000 shillings can be sold for as little as 2,000 shillings. So this law, again, Chairman, I congratulate you. You've done a good job in Article 59. Mr. Speaker, finally but not least, I want to thank the new investor in Mumia Sugar Company. He has changed the ecosystem. Shame on criminals who are now starting to ban the nuclear cane. We know you criminals, and we are going to come for you. Mumia Sugar Company will never close. I thank you, and I support.